Of course, the issues regarding to climate change, the floods that we've been witnessing in the country, and many more. That will be a conversation that will be coming your way at exactly 10 p.m. So do stay with us. We begin our broadcast now, and the much-anticipated autopsies on 32 bodies exhumed from a mass grave in Kericho failed to take place today. The government is carrying out preparations for the exercise that will help shed light on the identity of the deceased persons and how they died. Now, meanwhile, Kericho residents are piling pressure on the government to start a public inquest into the deaths of the 33 persons, fearing that they could be linked to the illegal human organ trafficking. Ken Geshui starts our bulletin with that story.
A day after 32 bodies were exhumed from a mass grave at a cemetery owned by the National Council of Churches of Kenya (NCCK) in Kericho town, residents are now calling for a public inquest to give comprehensive answers to the mystery.
We want to urge the ODPP to move the court for an inquest. We want answers as to how these bodies were found here. We want to know who are they, and we want to urge our leaders to come up and speak on our behalf. 7
adult bodies, 25 children and 6 body parts of adults were exhumed from the grave on Tuesday, with residents expressing fears that they could have been victims of illegal human organs trafficking.
Lakini sisi kama wananchi tumejitokeza ya kwamba tunataka tujue na lazima tujue nani alihusika na nani alipeana ile authority ya kwamba ati ikuje izikwe hapa Kericho, na kwa nini haikuzikwa kule mahali ilitokea.
Are all their organs intact, or these are a business of body harvest? So what Kericho residents need right now are answers.
Although preliminary investigations suggest the bodies originated from Nyamira County, Kericho residents have called for investigations into the hospitals involved, saying the incident exposed major disregard of humanity.
In whose hands are we safe? In whose hands are our kids safe? Because mtoto mdogo mimi najua anafaa kuzikwa immediately in a good way. Wazazi wa hawa watoto wako wapi? Na kitu ingine mimi naomba serikali sana ichunguze hospitali yenye watoto walitolewa.
If they need for us to bring in other pathologists that we work with, we are ready to offer that support. We're also ready to offer support to any persons out there who are looking for their kin and wish to establish whether their kin are part of the people who are found in those graves.
This comes as the government prepares to conduct postmortems and collect DNA samples in an effort to identify the victims.
Once we are ready, we will let you know when we are going to start with the postmortems. But for now, we don't know until first of all, we have to assess the mortuary. We assess what they have, its conditions.
Ken Geshui, KTN.
Now, from Kericho to the capital, and a Nairobi court has allowed embattled former Cabinet Secretary Raphael Tuju a 7-day break before he can plead to charges leveled against him. Kibra Chief Magistrate Stella Atambo says the period will give Tuju sufficient time to get medical attention. This as Milimani Law Court's Magistrate Daisy Mutari declined to allow DCI officers access to Tuju's residence for retrieval of CCTV footage, saying the request didn't give sufficient grounds to do so. As Alona Chanda now reports, Tuju faces a charge of giving false information to the police.
Raphael Tuju's bet on courts is paying off, albeit temporarily, after Kibera Law Court's Chief Principal Stella Atambo granted his application for a 14-day period before he appears in court. Atambo concurred with submissions by the defense that Tuju needs time to recover fast.
Let both parties make their arguments on the defects and otherwise of the charge, if any, at the next court appearance in presence of the accused person, because we are all in agreement, both sides are in agreement on the aspect of deferment of the charge.
Tuju's woes that landed him in court began on Saturday when he vanished, triggering fears of abduction, only to resurface on Monday, claiming he had sought refuge at an unknown family in Kiambu for fear of his life. He was immediately arrested and now faces a charge of giving false information to police. Tuju has successfully been granted a 200,000 shillings anticipatory bail, barring police from arresting him. Tuju defense team insists that any attempt to apprehend him before formal charges will be unconstitutional.
As at yesterday, the High Court had granted Honorable Tuju anticipatory bail of 200,000. So that is enough security for him to be released pending production in court. So the court has given us 14 days. Within that period, for Honorable Tuju to get well and to come back to court. First of all, to see his health status, and second of all, to see whether he's in a proper and fit condition to take the plea and move on with this matter.
Efforts by DCI officers to access Tuju's residence to retrieve CCTV footage have not borne fruits. Milimani Magistrate Daisy Mutai declined the request, saying the DCI failed to disclose sufficient grounds to investigate him. Alan Ochanda, KTN.
Tonight, a damning audit has laid bare how billions of shillings paid by Kenyans through the government's eCitizen platform, Kenya Government Services Portal, may have slipped outside proper oversight through unauthorized bank accounts and even direct transfers to private entities. The findings raise pertinent questions about who was in control of public money and whether safeguards meant to protect taxpayers were deliberately bypassed. Our political affairs reporter Grace Nyanga has more.
An audit of Kenya's eCitizen platform, Kenya Government Services Portal, has exposed serious irregularities in how billions of shillings in public revenue were handled, raising fresh concerns about oversight and control of government funds. According to the auditor, the platform used by millions of Kenyans to pay for government services was linked to multiple revenue collection accounts across different banks, alongside two main settlement accounts. However, 4 of these bank accounts held in 2 major banks in Kenya had no evidence of authorization from the National Treasury.
Tell me who authorized, who approved the payment, and was it as per the PFM Act of 2015?
This account was not listed among the approved collection accounts by the National Treasury. In this regard, it was used to regularly collect money.
This directly contravenes the Public Finance Management Act 2015, which requires that all government bank accounts be formally approved by the Treasury. The absence of such approvals means the accounts were operating outside the legal financial framework, exposing public funds to potential misuse, diversion, or loss.
You mean all this time you are not aware of a certain account? And yes, Mugo.
More strikingly, the audit uncovered what it termed as unauthorized diversion of revenue. A private payment system, PesaFlow, had opened Kenyan shillings and US dollar accounts at the 2 banks, continue to channel government's revenue through them.
We have 7.5 billion shillings being held in banks without proper service level agreements.
The accounts were frozen and the funds in those accounts were withheld.
The audit also raised concerns over the use of mobile money pay bills linked to the platform. A review found that pay bill number 206206, used for revenue collection, was owned and operated by a private vendor rather than the government. Initially, funds collected through this pay bill were automatically transferred to the National Treasury Settlements account at KCB Bank every midnight. However, following a presidential directive and Gazette notice number 16008 of December 2022, the official government pay bill was changed to 22222. Funds held in the previous pay bill were transferred to the new account, and all future collections were expected to be automatically remitted to the Treasury's account. But a review of transactions under pay bill 22222 revealed that on January 25th, 2024, 4 transactions amounting to 127.8 million shillings were made directly to private entities instead of the designated government account.
This indicates lack of revenue traceability and accountability, which can lead to misappropriation, fraud, or revenue leakages.
The audit raises fundamental questions about how such accounts were opened and operated without Treasury approval, how long the arrangement persisted, and whether all funds were fully accounted for. Grace Nyanga, KTN.
Now, the government has assured Kenyans that there is no fuel shortage in the country, despite recent concerns over supply. Speaking after holding a meeting with industry players. Energy Cabinet Secretary Opiyo Wandayi said the national petroleum supply chain remains stable and fully operational. The government has also warned oil marketing companies against hoarding fuel with the hope of selling it later at a higher price. Aguti Rosa with that story.
Following concerns that some oil marketing companies may be hoarding fuel in anticipation of price changes, Energy and Petroleum Cabinet Secretary Opiyo Wandayi has warned that such practices violate license requirements and undermine public trust. All companies have been directed to comply with regulations set by Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority and ensure continuous supply at official prices.
If you are thinking that you can use this crisis to first and foremost create some artificial shortage of petroleum products with a view to maximizing profits, then you are mistaken, regardless of who you are in the supply chain. We have got adequate systems and mechanisms in place to allow us, enable us as a government to deal with every situation.
According to the government, current fuel stocks are sufficient to meet the national demand. Kenya Pipeline Company is currently holding 102 million litres of petrol, 146 million litres of diesel, and 167 litres of dual-purpose kerosene levels that meet the country's required reserves.
At the same time, I must also discourage Kenyans not to engage in any mode of panic buying. It's unnecessary because, as I've said, we have got enough stocks in the country. And the government of Kenya's primary responsibility is to ensure that we have got enough stocks now, tomorrow, and into the future.
This comes at a time when some consumers report being advised at certain petrol stations not to purchase fuel below or above specific limits, while others are experiencing long queues at retail outlets. Wandayi added that supply replenishment is also on track for April's cycle. Petrol vessels are set to deliver a combined 330 million litres, while diesel shipments will total 288 million litres. A dual-purpose kerosene cargo has already been received, with another expected later in April. Agutu Rosa, KTN.
Now, the Inspector General of Police, Douglas Kanja, has been directed to arrest and present Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja before the Senate committee after failing to appear before it. The County Public Accounts Committee has also slapped the governor with a 500,000 shillings fine for snubbing its summons. And as KTN's political affairs reporter Daniel Kariuki reports, Committee Chairperson Moses Kajwang says if the IG fails to produce the governor, the committee will resolve that Sakaja is unfit to hold public office, a resolution that will be forwarded to the IEBC for action.
Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja is once again a man on the spot. This after the governor failed to honor summons issued by the Senate County Public Accounts Committee.
We will give the Inspector General an opportunity to produce the governor, and if they fail to do so, then we could make adverse findings on the fitness of the governor to hold public office. We impose a fine of 500,000, the maximum allowed under the law, on the governor of Nairobi for failure to honor our summons.
The committee has further resolved that it will adopt the Auditor General's report as is, with Nairobi flagged for irregularities and misappropriation of public resources.
Just were to count the irregularities in procurement alone, it's in every sector. There's over 30 questions on just procurement alone.
Considering this report the way it is and adopting it from the Auditor General, then also we need to have a draft report and recommendations that will table on Tuesday.
Members, do we find it sufficient to impose a fine on the governor?
In the financial year under review, the Auditor General had raised 13 issues with the Dishi na County program that has consumed 15 billion shillings. He was also expected to answer to queries on the construction of 1.2 billion shillings governor's residence.
Advisors you spoke about, on average, each one of them earns 203,000, and therefore the extra advisors earned a total of 9.7 million Kenya shillings. This is not pocket change, because this report of Nairobi just indicates that if anything was to go wrong, it has gone wrong in Nairobi. Everything.
What needs to determine as way forward is whether if the written responses are there, then we need to consider them when we are doing the report that we should table for Nairobi before the close of business of 31st.
The committee has further issued summons to 29 more governors, with senators warning if they fail to appear next week, then they will petition the House leadership to take appropriate action.
Other governors who might choose a similar route, that we find them to be in gross violation of the Constitution and therefore refer to the Public Audit Act on their fitness to hold public office.
Daniel Kariuki, KTN.
Now, opposition politics in Mount Kenya region continue to gain traction, with Fred Matiangi leading the Jubilee Party supporters in a high-profile tour of Nyeri County, aimed at consolidating support in the area. Matiangi, who is the deputy party leader of Jubilee and the party's presidential flag bearer, kicked off his visit by officially opening the party's Nyeri County offices, a move designed to reinforce the party's grassroots network and reassert its presence in the region that has in recent years been a political battleground. Clement Masombo has the details.
Jubilee's presidential candidate Fred Matiangi was in Nyeri to open county party offices, coming a day after opening party offices in Nyandarua. Matiangi later addressed a public rally. In his address, Matiangi positioned himself as a key contender within the opposition, asserting that he is the most suitable candidate to challenge President William Ruto.
Nimekuja hapa kuhakikishia kwamba niko tayari mimi kuanza kufanya hiyo kazi na ninaielewa. Na nyinyi sitawaangusha wananchi wa Nyeri. Tutapanga hii kazi twende mbele.
The former interior CS boasted of his leadership experience and well-known track record in various government ministries. Matiangi added that he will work closely with other opposition leaders.
Vile mnajua Jubilee, sisi tumeungana na wale wengine katika upinzani. Tuko katika United Opposition. Na hapo United Opposition tuko pamoja na DCP na Mheshimiwa Rigathi Gachagua.
Na sisi kama Jubilee, kama wale wengine, presidential candidate wetu ni Fred Okengo Matiangi. Na atakaa na wale wengine watupatie mtu mmoja ili tuweze kutoa kamutu kanaitwa Kasongo. Harambee!
The rally also saw allies come out strongly in support of his visit, with former Nyeri Town Member of Parliament Ngunjiri Wambogo dismissing claims that leaders must seek permission from regional political figures before holding events in central Kenya. His remarks appeared to be a direct response to former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who has previously maintained that he should play a hosting role for political activities in the region.
Mimi nataka chama yetu ini guarantee ita protect our candidates. Kuna watu walikuwa wamesema Jubilee imekufa. Mkiangalia Jubilee imekufa. Jubilee imekufa. Si tuko. Si lazima uletwe na mtu. Huku si lazima uletwe na nani? Kura tuko nazo. Kanatea. Na tutakupatia. Na tutakupatia direct. Na tutakupatia kwa mtu mwingine.
Clement Masombo, KTN.
Well, it's time for our first breather here on Ktn Prime, but before we do, let's have a look at what Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard, has in store for you tomorrow morning. And on the front page, they say grave questions. They go ahead to say whose bodies? The burning question gripping the nation is who the Kericho mass grave victims are, and why 33 bodies, far more than the 14 officially listed, were buried in secret. In a country where families still mourn missing loved ones, such clandestine interments deepen suspicion and outrage, coming less than 3 years after hundreds of bodies were dug up in Shakahola Forest. Now, Nyamira County government's attempt to justify the burials with partial court orders now crumbles under the damning revelations from the exhumation, raising urgent questions about accountability, procedural breaches, and the fate of the unclaimed dead. Of course, they have these statistics in regards to that. 14 was the official number given of the bodies that had been buried there, but 33 bodies have been recovered, 25 of which are bodies of young children. That is a top story, and of course, among many other stories that you'll get on the Standard tomorrow morning. So make sure you grab a copy to get details in regards to that story and many more across the country and even across the borders. Still in this bulletin, a section of ODM delegates from Western Kenya say they will not attend Friday's NDC. Why? We tell you after this short break. Thank you for staying with us. Two matters, politics and divisions continue to rock ODM party ahead of Friday's special delegates convention called by acting party leader Dr. Oburu Oginga. Now, elders from Vihiga County are now accusing party leader of betraying the legacy of his late brother Raila Odinga. Led by former Bahati MP Fred Omido, the elders are vowed to boycott the Friday's NDC, terming it unconstitutional. Violet Auma reports.
While addressing the media in Vihiga County, the elders claimed that the current push by a section of ODM leadership to punish or push out some of the party officials goes against the wishes of the late Raila Odinga and the expectations of many party supporters.
Raila mwenyewe alitambua Sifuna na akasema Sifuna akisema chama kinasema unasema unafuata nyayo za ndugu yako. Na ndugu yako amekulea maisha yako yote na sasa unamsaliti.
According to the group, they sent a delegation to Oburu Odinga's home to express their opposition to any plans aimed at removing Secretary General Edwin Sifuna and other leaders from the party.
Tulikwenda kuonana na Oburu nyumbani kwake Kisumu. Tukamwambia hatukubaliani na msimamo wake wa kuondoa hawa vijana katika ODM. Hapa ni wapi? Na nyinyi ni kina nani? Ruto 2027 lazima aende nyumbani. Na nasema hivyo kwa sababu ni nyinyi mmemtuma.
The elders are now calling on Luhya leaders and delegates to boycott Friday's NDC, arguing that it does not conform to the party's constitution.
Wajumbe wote wa ODM kutoka sehemu hii ya Western watakao kwenda katika mkutano huo tunawachukua kama wasaliti wa chama chetu. Mkutano ambao huo ndio tunatambua, ule ambao umeitwa na Sifuna.
They expressed disapproval with the planned removal of ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna, Deputy Party Leader Godfrey Osotsi, and Saboti MP Caleb Amisi.
Wanataka waue chama cha Raila Odinga.
The leaders claimed that Raila Odinga will not have allowed ODM to continue with its current MOU with UDA beyond the 2027 general election.
Na akasema mambo yake ya mwisho ya kwamba kama ODM kurejayo mwaka wa 27 itakapokuja ODM itaona njia gani itachukua. Hakusema ati ODM itamezwa na chama kingine kidogo.
At the same time, the elders called for calm amid rising political tensions in the country, urging both government and opposition leaders to avoid personal attacks, insults, and political hostility in public forums. Violet Auma, KTN.
Now, to a very concerning story in regards to the 2027 polls. As the Niko Kadi campaign gains momentum, IEBC is on the spot for turning away Gen Z youth that turned to register as voters. At anniversary towers, some of those who showed up to register were asked to return home due to claims of large turnout and time constraints. Martin Opio reports on the frustration among the youth.
When we arrived at the IEBC headquarters today, the situation was similar to yesterday. Many young people turning up in large numbers to register as voters. IEBC staff appeared overwhelmed by the high turnout of youth eager to register as voters. The IEBC was forced to urge the youth to leave by around 3 p.m. due to the numbers. One of the IEBC officials asked the youth to leave and return the next day. However, these efforts bore no fruits as the youth stood their ground and refused to leave. This prompted instructions to security officers not to allow more youth to enter the registration center at Anniversary Towers. The case was similar in Machakos County, where large numbers thronged the IEBC offices. According to the constituency registrar, Alice Kimani, the number has been overwhelming since Monday, indicating growing interest among young people.
Let me say the turnout is good. Yesterday we had like 122. The day before yesterday it was also over 100. So basically the turnout is not bad.
The youth are now urging political leaders to support efforts to help more young people acquire national identification cards.
Hii si politician ama mtu tunakampenia yeyote. Hakuna mtu tunakampenia. Tuko hapa kwa sababu ya sisi majenzi, sisi wenyewe kwa wenyewe.
Unajiita kiongozi, we ni MP, we ni MCA, we ni governor, we ni senator, we ni UN rep. Wewe ni nani unataka kiti? Alafu hauwezi mobilize vijana.
Non-governmental organizations that have joined the campaign have warned politicians to keep off the initiative, saying it is a youth-led movement aimed at pushing for change in the country.
Kwanza Machakos tunafaa turejeste kwa fujo. Kwa sababu gani? Machakos ndio iliathirika kwanza wakati Rex Masai alipopigwa risasi tukiandamana 2024.
Martin Opio, KTN.
Now, impressive and frustrating at the same time. Impressive on the grounds that the number of youth turning out to register as voters is growing by the day, and frustrating that they cannot be able to register because IEBC says they are overwhelmed. Now, if IEBC is overwhelmed, then what next? Even as the country prepares for the much-awaited 2027 general election. Now, to the ongoing heavy floods, now and relentless rains have unleashed devastating floods that swept away homes, destroying farms and leaving families displaced. In Mutiambura area, the destruction was overwhelming. Residents counting losses and agencies racing against time to save lives. And as our reporter Ian Zive tells us, behind these statistics are families whose lives have been jolted.
The road to Mutiambura is treacherous. Slippery paths swallowed by raging waters, farms transformed into rivers, and livelihoods washed away. Among the hardest hit is Geoffrey Kitie, his homestead submerged, his hope drowned.
Sasa ile shida iko, zile vitu zilikuwa, zote zimeharibika. Kuku wameenda na maji, mbuzi, ng'ombe nimehamisha kwa majirani.
But it is not just homes. Floods have ravaged crops, threatening to turn this disaster into famine in the months ahead.
Tuko na shida mingi sana sababu hata chakula hatuwezi kula. Sasa sababu hatukuna pale tunaweza panda. Maji imekuja juu. Ukiangalia vile imekuja na inakuja sasa ile tunalala.
Na kulala ni shida. Maji tumetoa kwa nyumba. Kuku imeenda.
On the ground, Red Cross officials alongside the Deputy Commissioner of Funzawi move from family to family, assessing, consoling and counting the toll. Already, 3 lives have been lost here.
Kwanza ni chakula kwa sababu chakula walichokuwa nacho kimeharibika. Pili ni mosquito nets. Eneo hili liko na mbu sana. Kwa hivyo wanahitaji mosquito nets haraka iwezekanavyo. Na ingine kwa sababu vyoo walizokuwa nazo zimesombwa na maji. Kwa hivyo kuna uwezekano kutokea mkurupuko wa magonjwa ya kipindupindu.
Tuko na uharibifu mkubwa ambao umefanyika kwa mimea katika mashamba. Tuko na familia sasa hivi katika wilaya yote ya Nzaui karibu zaidi ya 120 ambao wameathirika, ikiwa inatupatia idadi ya watu karibu 500.
Tonight, Mutiambura stands as a grim reminder of nature's fury. Homes gone, futures uncertain, and families clinging to survival. Ian Zive, KTN.
Now, a senior IPOA forensic expert today presented detailed CCTV footage and photographic evidence linking a police officer to the events surrounding the fatal shooting of protester Rex Kanyike Masai during the June 20th, 2024 Gen Z demonstrations in Nairobi. Testifying before a Milimani court in Nairobi, forensic analyst Joshua Mutua told the inquest that surveillance footage places a plainclothes police officer at the center of events leading to the fatal shooting during the June 20th, 2024 Gen Z protests along Moi Avenue. The court heard that the footage sourced from cameras along Mama Ngina Street and from Absa Bank captures a man believed to be an officer moving within protest crowds moments before the incident.
Upon examination of the flash disk, these were the findings. It contained 36 photographs. It contained 36 photographs and two videos. Your Honor, the photographs were taken on 18th and 20th of June 2024. 18th and 20th of June 2024. Of the 36 photographs, 18 of them had metadata, and the rest of 18, after examination of the photographs described above and the videos shown before this court today, Your Honor, I formed an opinion that the person depicted in the images 1 to 18, I formed an opinion that this person depicted in the images 1 to 18 is the same were raw images. I have produced two reports in this court, and the two reports speak to each other, specifically on 20th June 2024. And Your Honor, under Section 6 of Evidence Act, the two reports should be read as one event or a fact.
From photograph number 1 to 15 and 16 to 18 and the videos, do you confirm that it is the same person that you see?
Now, women human rights defenders continue to face numerous challenges, many of which they are defined by their gender. They are often subjected to rights violations through attacks, threats, gender-based violence, and harassment, with those living with the disabilities facing even greater vulnerability. Now, speaking in Nairobi, they identified persistent gaps in protection, accountability, and access to justice, calling for stronger measures to safeguard their rights and recognize the critical role they play in the society.
First of all, start with their character. It goes to their being. It goes to their nature. It goes to even about how society have defined them.
Their face are not only external pressure, but of advocacy, but also social expectation, cultural barriers, economic constraint, and some cases, direct threats to their safety and well-being.
Survivors of gender-based violence still struggle to access justice due to systematic delays and gaps in accountability. This must change.
We cannot continue abducting people, killing them. Young people not having security, not having jobs.
If we don't protect our country and our constitution, we'll get to a position whereby the next generation will not be able to speak freely, even in classrooms.
Ahead in business news, Teleposter pension scheme to sell assets worth 12 billion. We have the details.
Well, good evening and welcome to KTN Business Prime. I'm Nokip Kimboy. The Kenya International Investment Conference 2026 opened today with the announcement of investment deals worth over $2.9 billion, equivalent to 375 billion shillings, which are expected to create more than 63,000 direct jobs in the country. Manufacturing attracted new capital to the tune of $600 million, $630 million towards real estate development, with healthcare attracting $310 million.
We have infused something different in this conference, some real focus on tangible outcomes, which we trust you will experience over the next 3 days.
In literally every sector of the economy, opportunities abound waiting to be explored. From manufacturing to agribusiness and digital economy, the country is a cocktail of opportunities awaiting investors such as yourself.
These reforms include zero rating VAT on exported services, tax reforms that allow corporates to offset verified tax claims against future liabilities, and the removal of the 30% domestic equity requirement.
Now, the Teleposter Pension Scheme has announced that it is in the process of selling some of its assets, valued at over 12 billion shillings, in a bid to boost monthly payouts to its over 6,000 members through other investments. The scheme's Board of Trustees representatives, Ignatius Wamalwa, say that the scheme is at an advanced stage of engaging with the government to offtake assets valued at 10 billion shillings, among them Teleposter towers and other buildings in different towns.
We are in advanced stages of conversations with the government to take the strategic assets, with the main one being Teleposter towers. It accounts close to half of our entire property portfolio.
When you want to demonstrate vile unawajali, you need to come and be open, transparent, explain to them openly the goings of the scheme. We are usually not in touch with them on a daily basis as trustees.
40% of Kenyans are borrowing to meet everyday expenses, and 54% are carrying the same or higher debt than last year. While Kenya's workforce remains under considerable financial stress, a wave of active financial intent has pushed overall satisfaction up to 5.9 out of 10. According to the latest All Mutual Financial Wellness Monitor report, nearly half of all working Kenyans are now financially supporting both children and aging parents.
The people who say that they are financially satisfied, so they gave a rating between 7 and 10, they're saying the reasons I'm financially satisfied is because, one, I'm more comfortable with my financial situation, so I have a little bit more wiggle room or bandwidth in my finances. I'm getting better at debt management. I'm able to save, and my business is doing better because I'm able to invest into my business.
The report has shown us that only 3 out of 10 households have money left after expenses. And the last consistent message is that only 42% of working Kenyans feel adequately protected.
All right, on to bank performances. I&M Group has announced a 22% rise in profit before tax to 24.2 billion shillings for the year ended December 2025. The group's revenue increased by 19% to 60.3 billion, boosted by a 16% rise in net interest income to 46 billion. At the same time, non-interest income increased by 31% to 14.4 billion. The board recommended a final dividend of 2 shillings and 25 cents per share, bringing the total dividend to 3.75. That is 3 shillings 75 cents per share, a 25% increase from 2024.
The profit after tax, 19.8 billion shillings, that's up 22%. And then net loans and advances up 7%. Our return on equity ticked up 18%. The absolute number in terms of increase was 1.6. And the return on assets at 3.2%, also ticking up positively about 0.3%.
And finally, Kakuzi has posted a 387.5 million shillings after-tax profit for its 2025 financial year, marking a dramatic turnaround from 131.6 million shillings loss recorded in 2024. The firm's board of directors has recommended a first and final dividend of 16 shillings per share, doubling last year's payout, reflecting confidence in Kakuzi's robust financial performance. Kakuzi reported total revenues of 5.4 billion shillings, generating a pre-tax profit of 568 million shillings compared to a pre-tax loss of 167 million shillings in 2024. Well, that's all from KTN Business Prime. I'm Nokip Kimboy. Good night.